Hi, this is On. This is Check It at the Round Table, where we discuss movies, books, music, and stuff. Today, we are discussing Plus and Minus episode 11 of the Taiwanese BL drama series. You can watch this for free at Viki Rukutan. You can also watch it on Gaga Ulala. They both have English subtitles. And this episode opens up with Nikita and Fu Ligong walking back to their respective places, Nikita to the bar, Fu Ligong to his home. And as they're walking, Nikita says, "You know what? Now I'm not sure if you do not want to date me or if you're just not talking to me because you have trouble saying no to people." And then she looks at him and he's kind of just sitting there going, like, basically, I don't know what to do with this woman. Why is she trying to get me to date her right after I broke up with Xing Jinchao? But anyway, she looks at him and goes, maybe the other thing is that you're really scared of hurting another person like you just hurt someone else. And she said, well, if you feel love for someone, there's always hope. But now I don't really have that hope anymore. So I'm good, and I don't have any regrets. Because I've told you how I feel, and you obviously don't feel the same, and that's good. And then she looks at Fu Ligong and says, you're really lucky to have found someone that you like. And you're really lucky that that person really likes you. So maybe you've come into something that you and he have hit a wall that you don't know how to get over. But if that is the case, and it's a wall that is something that you do need to get over, then maybe you should deal with this together rather than trying to figure out how to cross that hurdle on your own by separating yourself from the other party. And that's how it kind of ends with Nikita and Fu Ligong. Nikita then goes back to the bar where Xing Jingzhao is because he has drank way too much, and Yuki is trying to get him to quit drinking and go home. And Nikita asks Yuki what happened. Yuki explains that Xing was there since they opened and he's still drinking now. And she says, you know what? Let me handle it. I've got this, Yuki. You go, polish the glasses behind the bar. I don't know. So anyway, she starts talking to Xing, and Xing says, we should drink together. You're falling in love. I've fallen out of love. You're now going to be my sister-in-law because Fu Ligong is my brother. And Nikita just looks at him and she throws his drink in his face and says, even though I'm not with Fu Ligong, we're not a couple. That's not the point. The point is you are being such a jerk, and Fu Ligong deserves so much better than you. Take everything else aside. You are not worthy of Fu Ligong because you have no idea what he's thinking. You have no idea why he decided to break up with you. So before you start making rapid judgment calls on Fu Ligong or me, maybe a little time for introspection, Xing. Not exactly, but basically. So anyway, Xing gets up and leaves the bar. The next day, Fu Ligong and Xing are at work. Xing gives in his resignation to Uncle Wang and says, I'm going to leave. I'm 28. There's a lot of opportunities available for me that I could go work elsewhere, have interesting adventures. I'm going to take advantage of my age. And Uncle Wang looks at him and goes, this is about Fu and you, and the fact that you guys have had an issue come up. And Fu has already talked to me about you guys' relationship, so I'm fully aware of what's going on. But he says, I remember the first time I met your dad. I was holding Fu, your dad was holding you, and I've known you for many, many years, almost your whole life, and almost all of Fu's life. And to me, you're like one of my kids. So the thing is I don't care what decision you make regarding basically Fu and you, but I do want you to know that I fully support you, no matter what happens. So make sure that you really want to do the decision that you're making. And I really think the one thing that I do really like about this movie, there are many things that I really like about this drama series, but the fact that Fu's dad is such a cool person. I mean, no offense. He's kind of like some of the BL moms. Like, for example, in I Do Be Loved in House, She Lee's mom. She's awesome. I'm just saying, really, she really is. And in the same way, Uncle Wang, I'm like, he's a really cool dude. But anyway, Xing's dad, not so much so, but I do have to say he has good qualities. It's just he also has some bad qualities which cause trouble. But anyway, so Jing gives in his resignation. As he's leaving the office, he crosses paths with Fu and says, "I'm going to go." And Fu's like, I'm not sure if he means basically I'm leaving the office to go somewhere else for a case. I'm leaving permanently. And you can tell Fu's trying to process in his mind. And also he doesn't want to really talk to Jing about this in front of everyone else. And so that's how they end the scene. Also, at the same time, or not simultaneously, but close, Yuki has decided to put on a vintage clothes party at the bar the night before. And Mr. Lai comes down to the bar and he's like, this is all the clothes that Yuki cleared out. And Yuki comes to him and says, I wanted to show off the clothes so that they have a new life because you saved them, and so they deserve to have another life that people would appreciate them. And Mr. Lai says, thank you, Yuki, for everything that you've done for me, because you basically, Mr. Lai, it really helped him to come out of his shell to have Yuki in his life. And he also has the coffee possibility now of having a cafe. And he also has some better relationship with his daughter, Lele, as well. So I think that in many ways, Yuki helped Mr. Lai become a better person than he was before. And in the same way, Mr. Lai kind of helps balance out the precocity of Yuki, if that makes sense. So anyway, as they're standing there looking at the clothes, Yuki says, will you give me another chance? And Mr. Lai kind of looks at him, and you can tell, I think, what's going through Mr. Lai's mind. I'm not sure, but he's like, I didn't know that you needed another chance. I thought, we were still a couple, but okay. And Mr. Lai just kind of lifts his hands like, can I have a hug? And that's how they get back together. The next morning, Mr. Lai and Yuki wake up in the laundromat, and Yuki says, it's very cold right now, because in Taiwan, they do have winter, although it's not like winter in the States. I'm just saying, minus 21 degrees Celsius is no fun. Yeah, it's not, Taiwan gets cold, but not that cold. So anyway, Yuki pulls the cover around Mr. Lai and he says, you need to stay warm. It's cold outside. And Mr. Lai says, maybe I should get up and get the space heater. And Yuki's like, you already have a space heater. I am here. Or, I am a heater. And so they have that moment. And Mr. Lai says, I need to get up and go to work. And Yuki's like, I don't think you need to go to work today. And I think he convinces Mr. Lai that he doesn't need to go to work quite as early as normal that day. So anyway, they have their romantic moment. Now back to Jing and Fu Ligong. Jing goes to see his dad and tells his dad, I've gave Uncle Wang my notice. I'm going off on my own to gain experience because I'm still young, etc., etc. And Jing's dad goes, is this about me? Is this about Fu Ligong? Why are you doing this now? And when did you decide that you were going to leave the law firm? And Jing says, well, I've thought about it for a few days, and this is what I'm doing. And his dad goes, I thought Fu Ligong would talk to you about this, because Fu Ligong came to me after I found out you guys were together on his own, and I was going to think that he was going to tell me, all the reasons that he thought you and he should be together. And I was going to tell him all the reasons I thought you shouldn't be together. But the first thing he said out of his mouth was he was breaking up with you because his name, because he said, Fu Ligong said, your name has the same character as protect. And you want to protect everyone you care about, which is one of the reasons Fu thinks you decided to be with him when he told you that he cared about you. And Fu wants you to have a good life. He wants you to be happy. And so in order for you to be happy, Fu thinks that it would be best for you to just be brothers instead of romantically involved. And that's why he broke up with you, because he wants you to be happy at all costs. Even if that costs him, that's what he wants. And Jing looks again and goes, if I'm not with Fu, if Fu's not in my life, how am I going to be happy? Because Fu's always been in my life, and now he's not, and this sucks brick. And his dad goes, your family will support you no matter what you do. Yes, I have, Fu's dad has major problems, of course, with Fu and Jing being together, just because he can't quite wrap his brain around that. But, he says, no matter what, your sister and I, your family will support you. If you decide to be with Fu, we'll support you. If you decide not to be with Fu, we'll support you. You have found happiness, so you should pursue happiness. If that's with Fu, then go be with Fu. If that's not with Fu, then for Pete's sake, do not be with Fu. So he says, just do what you know you should do, basically. And I do have to say, both Fu Ligong's dad and Jing's dad do want the best for their children. Now, I have to say I much prefer Fu Ligong's dad, because Fu Ligong's dad is not biased or prejudiced or narrow-minded like Jing's dad. But even Jing's dad, even in his worst moments, which, yes, he has some very bad moments in this drama series, he still cares a lot for his son. And at the end of the day, I think that the main concern for his dad is he wants his son to be happy, and he also wants his son to not have any extra trouble in his life, which he thinks that if Jing was with Fu, that he would have extra trouble in his life. And, it kind of reminds me in many, many ways of the old film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which I don't know if any of you have watched, but it's a great movie. It's got Sidney Poitier in it. Need I say more? But anyway, it's a movie created in the 60s. And it also starred Katharine Hepburn. But in that movie, it was about Sidney Poitier's character was getting ready to marry, I can't remember the girl's name in the show. I'm sorry. But anyway, it was a interracial marriage, which really didn't happen very much back in the 60s. In some states, it was still illegal at that point in time. And the whole point of the movie is a discussion on basically, is this marriage going to be a good thing for both parties, or is this marriage going to be a bad thing for both parties? And also having both couples' parents meet and talk. It's a very interesting film, I think. Also, it's something that I would have my kids watch even now, because I think that it brings up some very important topics. But the one point that has always stuck with me from that film since childhood, because I watched it when I was a kid, and I also watched it since then, but there was a minister who was meeting with a couple, and he was talking to the girl's mom without them there. And the girl's mom was like, I'm really worried, because if my daughter marries this guy, they could have more trouble in their relationship. It could cause them to divorce because of what people think of them. And the minister kind of looks at her mom and says, I really think that your daughter and your future son-in-law will be fine together. In fact, I think they might actually be better together than a couple who was not interracial. And he said the reason being is your daughter and your son-in-law, or future son-in-law, already know how to deal with conflict. They already know how to deal with people who might look poorly at them just because of the variance in their skin tones. He said they have already faced several battles and are still together. If they can do that now, then they will be better prepared to do that when they marry. In the same way, I think with Jing and Fu, with couples who are same-sex couples, they face stigmatism still in our society, no matter where you are in the world. Because of that, it's not necessarily that they will do better in a relationship or a marriage than a heterosexual couple, but they also have a great understanding of what it's like to be ostracized by certain groups in our society. And so because of that, I think in many ways they are better equipped when something comes against them to fight it off stronger as a couple than some heterosexual couples who really don't face a lot of ostracism in our society. So anyway, actually, I was just reading a report on this, and it actually said that the divorce rate among heterosexual couples was in some cases much higher than homosexual couples. I was like, that's a very interesting thing. And maybe it's related to this fact that they already have combated a lot of issues, so they face them together more readily when something comes up than a heterosexual couple that doesn't have to deal with as many issues. So anyway, but Fu Ligong and Jing Jinxiao, Fu Ligong is called in by his dad at the same time that Jing is with his dad, who says, do what makes you happy. We'll support you no matter what. And Jing is called in by his dad, and he says, Dad, you called me in. And his dad goes, Fu? Jing gave in his resignation. It's right here. And I want to talk to you. He said, firstly, I want you to know that you need to get out of that head of yours, because if you stay in that head of yours and don't think for yourself, you're going to have regrets. It's not because I think basically you should be with Jing or I think you shouldn't be with Jing. I think that you should think for yourself and decide what you want in life and then go after it. And he said, that's the thing that I want to talk to you about basically right now. And Fu Ligong looks at the letter. He looks at his dad and he goes, mm-hmm. And then he just leaves. And Uncle Wang just whips up the resignation letter and goes, the boys will be fine. The next thing, Fu Ligong is trying to call Jing. Jing is trying to call Fu Ligong. They cannot get a hold of one another, and they end up both back at the baseball field. And that's how this episode ends. I would say I really do like this episode because it shows how the parents of both Fu Ligong and Jing do, in the end, with Jing's dad and constantly with Fu Ligong's dad, want the best for their kids. And they also know that, I think with Jing and Fu Ligong, I do not think would have been happy with anyone else but Jing, because he knew Jing. He's loved him for years and years and years. And Jing, it kind of reminds me in many ways. I think it's interesting, as I mentioned in a previous episode of this podcast regarding the series, that this series came out after Bad Buddy. Because even though Bad Buddy and Plus and Minus are not the same at all, they still have certain aspects that I think are interesting in their correlations. For example, we have another demisexual featured in Fu Ligong's character in the same way that we have one in Pran's character in Bad Buddy, which demisexual characters really don't come up very often. But anyway, so we have that feature. We also have with Pat and with Jing, two people who they really didn't care about. I'm not trying to be bad to Pat or Jing, but Pat didn't care about Pran until after that rooftop moment. And he's like, I am not letting go of my person after this. And with Jing, it's like he had to kind of process Fu Ligong liking him for a day and a half. And then he was like, I'm okay with that. I like Fu. We will be fine. So, I think that the interesting thing is you have one party of the couple who's demisexual. You have the other party who isn't demisexual at all, but who, once they settle on their person, it's like, this is my person. This will always be my person. Yes, I might not have thought of them in this way before, but boy, I think of them that way now, and it's going to stay that way. And I think it's kind of interesting to see in some way, the development of Jing's character and the constancy of Fu's character throughout the drama series. And even when Fu breaks up with Jing, it's not that he broke up with Jing because he didn't care about him. In some ways, I think that if he cared about him less, he would have stayed with him, not broken up with him, which sounds kind of weird, but it does make sense because he was worried that Jing was making the decision to be with him based on a feeling of requirement, like he was required to protect Fu, he was required to love Fu. What he didn't realize is Jing wasn't with Fu because he felt like Jing felt like Fu needed to be with him. He was with Fu because he cared about him a lot. But I think this series is a very interesting series. Also, you can watch this series with any age group. Now, I will say there are a couple scenes in I think it's episode 6, and also in episode 12 that you might want to skip with the kiddies, but it's really just a short moment, and so I really didn't think it was that much at all. Also, I'm not really convinced this needed a PG-13 rating, but don't get me started on Vicky Rukaton and their rating systems. It's the same way I feel about a lot of the ones that they rate there for BL drama. But anyway, I would give this episode a 10 out of 10. It is a great episode, and we're getting ready for episode 12, which is awesome. And then we have episode 13, the extra, which I've watched yesterday, and I was so happy. It was like, oh, this is a perfect end to this drama series. But anyway, check it at the round table. Bye. Hi, this is Anna, and this is Check It at the Round Table, where we discuss movies, books, music, and stuff. Today, we are discussing how you can connect with us on social media and also how you can support us. We are reachable at this lovely podcast on various platforms. We also have several YouTube channels, The Hand Network, Check It Round Table, and also the Asian Drama Club. I will drop the links in the description so you can check those out. You can also reach us online at our website. That's onnacarr.com. That's ONNACARR.com. You can support us through either PayPal or Venmo. Our PayPal email address is roses, ROSES, out of the snow, OUTOFSNOW @gmail.com. And you can support us also on Venmo. The connection for that is at Onnacarr, and that's uppercase O and uppercase C, and it's ONNACARR. The last four to verify are 1143. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.